Welcome to the primeval forest. Yeah, the land of the lost hippies, that is. There was, see, Omar, Harley, Sunshine Bob, which I'm still in contact with.
Panama
Red. Let's see, you, Ronald Mc Donald, me, the Boobie. I don't know the way to go anymore, Laura. Let's go that way. This way's blocked. Well, I don't know. We can go around it, maybe.
Yes.
Dad. I'm going my mom's way. I'm climbing the rock.
Whoa, look at Cyclops Beach! Holy moly! We were basically the police down here, the older guys that lived in the camps, that lived in the, in the boonies. We took all the trash out of here, recycled all the aluminum. Back behind this rock was Camp Agnes. It was a camp that was basically runaways. They come down here during the summertime, and then towards the end of summer, the cops come down and clear them all out. And let's see, Camp Agnes is back behind this one, and over here is the Cyclops camp, right around the area where he's at. It's quite different. I got along with everyone. There was never any violence down here, ever. Never. Not even once. The only violence were cops. We are almost there. You see the two telephone poles up there?
There's the twin poles.
See the two poles up on the road? The wires from those poles go over to two more poles, and in between the two is twin poles, or twin pools, actually. This is the Yellow Country Club.
Nice cabinets.
Uh-huh. It's the coup at night. Woo! I can't do it anymore. My vocal cord is gone. At nighttime, you can make noise anywhere on these hills, and you can be heard on any other hill. Easy. Miles. I mean, for miles, sound travels down there. Look at the swimming hole down there.
Yeah.
Cool too.
Wow.
Right on the other side of that rock. There should still be there. Should still be a dam down there. And we got things in the dam. Got a time capsule with a Coke bottle or a Pepsi bottle with some pot and a roach clip and a bit of LSD. A little note explaining what it all is.
Let's dig it out.
Plastic inside of a bottle, inside the dam, right on the other side of that rock. And when I was 17, I stayed here for the first winter. And that wasn't bad. It was the winter after that, probably in when was the crafts fair in the center? And that was 1970. So it was during the...
Yeah, I think so.
During the summer of 1970, I decided I wasn't going to go back to school and I was going to stay here for the winter, so I did. I was not into violence, I'm into peace and love, I'm complete opposite of my family, so I ran away and came here.
When I first came down here, I was a runaway as well. I was actually kind of a runaway / throwaway.
Yeah.
I ran away from home.
We were all throwaways.
Yeah.
All of us down here, we're all throwaway. We're all throwaway family.
Yeah.
That's why we were family with each other.
Right.
I mean,
we were the rejects of
family to
society.
each other, man. I was like the doctor. 90% of the time I took care of people. I was the one that stitched people up. I'd go to make the, go get the fire department, and I was the one that usually went. It was the quickest up and down the hill.
He would get his medical supplies at the local pet store.
Mm-hmm. I would. I can remember sitting on top of Bucket Rock right there and counting 200 naked people right here. And that was common every weekend. It was very common. Yeah. A lot of them I still know, like Francois, he lives up north, and Muskrat bought property right next to Francois. Bungalow Bruce is working for Francois up there. Jim Reeves, we called him Groundhog. Groundhog and Francois were the first two people I met down here in 1969. So they were the ones that first turned me on to this area.
And Boob was the first person I met down here.
Yeah, that was the first one he met.
I was hanging out with some of my friends in Granada Hills, and they told me they found this place where there was naked girls and free drugs. And I thought, oh my gosh, I've got to go find this place. And the next day I hitchhiked out here and I never left.
One time we were sitting here, there was this guy named Mountain Eddie. And Mountain Eddie was an alcoholic, had a white dog that he called his white water buffalo. And he was kind of an obnoxious drunk, the type that once he gets drunk, everyone just leaves him. Just can't handle being around him. He's just obnoxious. Mountain Eddie decided to go right off the edge. And he went straight down, he landed on that big boulder, then bounced off that, and then bounced off the muddy area and down into the water face first. He had bones sticking out of both arms, bones sticking out of his leg and his hip. And he's going, oh, I said, oh my God, oh my God. I said, somebody's got to go get the fire department. And no one wanted to go, so I just drug him out over here on the sand. I got dressed and ran up to go get the fire department. Now, here's the funny part. When I get to the fire department, there's a policeman there. He's got to come down with the fire department, and he does not want to because he's heard rumors of people down here, quote, eating dogs. So this is how the rumor started. So the cop says, well, I got to go down there, but I don't want to. I said, oh, it's cool, you know, we're not going to bother you, you know, no one's going to bother you. It's cool, you know. There's somebody really hurt down here. He goes, okay, so he's got to come. On the way down, we run across this guy named Muskrat. Muskrat is kind of a funny little guy. He likes to drink, he likes to party, and he likes to get unusual. And he's got war paint on him. He's got a big fig leaf over his dick and a little piece of string holding that in place. He's got a homemade bow and arrow and a Coors can in his hand and feathers sticking in his hair. And he comes up the trail and the cop comes walking down, and the cop did not want to see anything like this. He was scared to death, and the cop stopped dead in his tracks. Muskrat stopped dead in his tracks, and I saw Muskrat's eyes go down the cop, up the cop, and stop and look at his badge. And when his eyes hit the badge, he went and was gone so fast his can of Coors went on the ground. And I didn't even see him run. He's just gone. And the cop turns around and he goes, what was that? Not who was that, but what was that? And didn't want to come down here. He was scared to death. It was so funny. He was scared. He was scared. And a week later, Mountain Eddie was back here in a full body cast.
I came down here one time. We had, we were at Top Camp, and all we had was a small bag of onions.
Onions, honey.
And
onion and candle.
A half an ounce of hash.
And honey.
And it rained so hard. The creek was so high that we couldn't get back across.
We were
so we were stuck at camp for 3 days. I didn't know you were with this. Yeah.
It
was my hash.
Oh, man, 3 days. 3 days we were stuck. There's no way you could cross. There was no way. All of this was underwater. This big, giant, huge plume of water shooting up in the air. I didn't think any of these boulders would survive because you could hear the ground, you could feel the ground shaking.
The ground was actually rumbling.
And you could hear the boulders going down. And so you wouldn't think, you think everything would change, but it didn't. And then I got hurt pretty bad here. I went off a cliff, landed on my head, and went about 15 foot. Went through a tree. I remember going through the tree, and I remember hitting. I remember everything about it. And then I remember I started repeating my name and things like that to make sure I didn't lose my memory. I was really concerned about losing my memory. And went home. Got up in the morning and I was in pretty bad shape. Didn't think I was going to make it. And I started crawling out of camp. I couldn't walk. And I literally crawled all the way to the center. And I was leaning up against the wall at the center. Somebody came up and said, hey, there's a new pastor in Topanga Canyon. His name is Reverend Glenn. Can I go get him for you? And I said, please do. I said, please do. And Glenn, which is Christine's dad, came up. And since then, since we know each other, I've talked to him, and he didn't think I was going to live either. I was really bad. My head was totally open. You could see the skull. Glenn came down, laid hands on me, and prayed. And I got up and stood up, and I walked to the road, and I hitchhiked to Venice, to my friend's house. And I collapsed at his doorstep, and he took me to the hospital. I was living across the road and over there on that side. And she was 18 and free, and I don't know, we just ended up, I've known her since she was a little kid. I mean, there's 15 years age differences. And then I had never one for breaking up. I've always been monogamous, so when I get with a woman, I'm usually with them for a long time. And I got 3 kids. So we were demoing a lot of really nice places. So we got the brainy idea one day when we started throwing away really nice stuff. We could just haul this stuff up to our camp and make a house. Just make one. So we used 1x2s, 2x1s, 12-volt system, using boat batteries and car batteries from cars that went off down here. And it ended up being 5 sections long, so it was 40 feet long, and it was 8 feet wide, and we had a solar shower inside. We had a 4-burner stove and oven, propane, louver windows. It was like extremely luxurious. And I think that was one of the things that enticed Christine. We were here till the day she was born. Christine left to go to the hospital from our camp. When she came back from the hospital, I had a trailer. This is the first time my kids ever get to see twin poles. And they've heard my stories for years, you know. Some of the crazy stories, you know. We were known as the Booney Rats or Creek Rats. I guess the Creek Rats was what it ended up being. It was Booney Rats for a long time. And they called me that because I had a rat on my arm. I was the tattooed one. It says it did say truckin', but now it's all faded out. It's like, you know, very old now. But I was the only one that was tattooed with a rat. And I was here the longest. Everyone else had left. I was like the diehard. The king of the Creek Rats, or king of the boonies, the king of the boonies. Then we had the girls that would come down on the weekends that heard about these, quote, mountain men. And they would come down here, I'm not kidding, and they would bring things. I mean, like, bring things like everything their parents had in the refrigerator and more, money, booze, sex, I mean, everything. They'd come down and just give it to us. They were so intrigued with this mountain man thing, and they'd bring their friends, and it was just like, whoa, this is getting kind of crazy, you know. But when you're, you know, a young guy,
you didn't really need much, you know, just
no, you don't
food
need
and
much.
tobacco.
Yeah.
And if you were lucky, you had a stash of drugs, but I never did. He dealt drugs. I never did very good with dealing drugs. I didn't have the discipline. I would buy drugs and
Do
them and give them all away. Yeah, I remember living here and then getting sick of Topanga. Man, I'm sick of Topanga.
Yeah.
Let's hitchhike north.
Let's go
so
north.
we'd go to Big Sur or go to Oregon,
Yeah.
spend a few weeks there, a month there.
Yep,
I go,
right back
man,
here.
I'm sick of this place. I can't wait
I
to get
miss
back to
Topanga. I want to
Topanga.
go swimming. I'm going to go to the swimming hole.
Hitchhike back to Topanga.
Remember that, Christine? Our hitchhiking dogs? That was great. That was funny. We told our dogs to stay. We were living up at camp up here. We told her new dog was Coo. My dog was Rex. So you stay here. Now, Rex always obeyed me. But he knew I was going to work. And he knows that if I go to work, he can go to the back door of that restaurant and get goodies. You know, he taught Coo that if he went over and he sat at the guardrail where we hitchhiked from and just sit there, sooner or later somebody that he knows would pull over and open that door and he'd get in. They'd take him to the center, they'd open the door and he'd get out. Because I did it. I hitchhiked there all the time, so he just figured if he just sat there like I did, he'd get a ride, and it worked. And we're sitting at the center one day, and I told her, I said, you know, my dog's eventually going to teach your dog how to do that trick about hitchhiking here. She goes, no, he won't. And the car pulls over, opens the door, and both our dogs get out. Guy closes the door and laughs and drives on. And I looked at her and I said, I don't believe this. I can't believe this, man. My dog is hitchhiking now. That's funny. You like the swimming hole? You see the party potential down here?
But the beauty of this area is one of the things that was so intriguing to me. Just the beauty is just so stunning.
Which it still is. It's still magical.
It's so
to
peaceful.
me,
It's
this
magic.
is magical right now. This is a magical moment to me. This is so far out. I can't express how it makes me feel. It's like, wow. I mean, this is like, wow. This is where I wasted most of my life. You know?
Yeah.
This is where I wasted most of my life. See, there's the other two poles. See? Two
Isn't that
poles
rock?
together.
Wasn't it-
Oh, I'll tell you a funny story. We're all sitting here one day, and we're all high. There's about 30, 40 people all here. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we hear this. And it's a guy screaming. We're looking around. Where in the world is it coming from? And there's a guy hanging on a bar that's bent over with a little rolling thing. And he's trying to measure from that pole to the other poles over here. And he rode the thing, and he's hanging, going over this, right over us. And he's hanging, going, ah, screaming. And he hit the other pole, bam, right into it, and broke his leg, fell down on the ground. We get up there, and it's the ambulance and cop cars. He's all, I can't believe I did it. I can't believe I did it. And we're like, dude, that was insane. Went all the way across from that pole to the other one.
Cool.
Hanging on a line. It was like nuts, man.
We were sitting on the creek, fire going, and had a jug of wine, getting drunk, getting high, and a Fiat, convertible Fiat with 4 people in it, drove over the cliff, hit the side of the mountain 3 times, spinning around. The people in the car all fell out of the car except for the driver. The driver hit the ground about 10 feet away from us, hit the ground, and the Fiat, and he fell on the sand in between 2 boulders.
Wow.
The Fiat, bam, landed on top of the 2 boulders, bent the entire frame. It was about that far above him.
I'd seen one lady get drunk down here, and then out of nowhere just says, I'm going home, and took off her clothes and left. And we're all sitting here going,
She had things in reverse.
we're all going, what was that all about? No, this can't be happening. So all of us went up to the road to see. She's out there standing in the road, stark naked, stuck there hitchhiking. Had no problem getting a ride. People would get the beer and they would throw it in the pool. And the rules were 1 beer at a time. You could sit in the water and drink, but 1 beer out at a time. And we'd throw cases and cases because there's a lot of people. And then we'd all go swimming for beer, but in the morning I'd go under that boulder down in there, and there's a channel where water comes in. And that's where the deepest point is. That's where I'd always go to get my beer. Every morning. Drugs, speed, crank. It's terrible. It's everywhere. I mean,
That was my downfall.
it's everybody's. You know, if
I haven't done it in 20 years, but man, it almost took me down. It almost took me out.
Well, it changed my whole life around. I haven't been a single parent ever since I stopped doing it. Raising my kids on my own 12 or 11 years now. So, I'm not sure where she's staying now. It's, I don't know. I know of her old habits. I don't know if they're still old habits or if they're still habits. I don't know. A lot of people ended up being alcoholics more than anything. I mean, everyone I knew drank. You know. I stopped drinking, I don't know, 12, 13, 14 years ago. I got up one morning and I said, I don't want to drink no more. I just stopped. It's the oddest thing. I mean, from somebody who drank from beer 30 on every day, and that was about 10:30, it was beer 30 for me. I just stopped. I've drank maybe a 6-pack of beer altogether since then. And that's like, about a month ago I had 1 beer, just to taste it. I was surprised. It was a Budweiser. It tasted good. I was like, darn, that does taste good. You know, doesn't smell that good, but it tasted pretty good. For not having one in so long, I got all warm and fuzzy. I was laughing. I'm out here fishing. I got all buzzed. 1 beer. Well, they're as easily amused.
Yeah.
Then I got a headache.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me it was really a spiritual awakening that got me off of my drugs. Turned my life around.
Yeah, too bad
Got me
there
out of the
wasn't-
creek.
Too bad there wasn't more of the Creek people that would get turned on to Christ, because they, you know, it was a big thing in my life, but and I know in his. But there was a lot of people here that you couldn't even say the word to them. They'd be gone. I didn't want to hear about it. You know, it's funny. A lot of people were that way. And I ended up being with Christine, preacher's daughter. You know, I was like, yeah.
It was an arduous few years for me to get clean and to stay clean. I'd have a relapse here and there, and you know, it was tough. Addiction's not a fun thing. And you know, it didn't really catch up to me till maybe my late 20s. My late 20s, it really started to catch up. Whereas before then, it was just party time. And then when I really became addicted to drugs, I became very serious about taking my drugs. And then it was only about my drugs. It wasn't about partying or people anymore. It was about drugs. And that's when I knew I was really in trouble. I was pretty strung out on meth, and I remember, I'll never forget, I was at a rest area along the interstate in the bathroom, thinking, and I knew I was strung out, I knew I couldn't stop. I knew I was out of control. And I sat there thinking, what is it going to take for me to stop? Am I going to have to get arrested and go to jail in order to get clean? I remember praying and going, God, what is it going to take? And half an hour later, I was sitting in the back seat of a cop car, going to jail, thinking, oh, I'm so glad I'm going to jail, because now I could get off of my drugs and get clean. And that was really the beginning for me of getting clean. I got clean in jail. And when I got out, I stayed clean, miraculously. And it's when that's really when my life, I think, really began. Went back to school. You know, I was a junior high school. When I ran away from home, I was 13 years old. So I was actually a junior high school dropout. And so when I went back to school, I was 33 years old. Now I'm a marriage and family counselor, full-time. It's what I do, and I love it, and it's been an amazing journey. You know, people often think that being homeless is the worst thing that could happen to a person, but actually it's not. I was homeless for years, living down here and living around here, and we never even thought of ourselves as being homeless people. We were just living our lives. There's far worse things that could happen to a person than becoming homeless.
Back when I was homeless, we didn't call it homeless.
Right, yeah.
I had a house. This was my house. This is my yard, man. I was fine. I was just fine, man.